Hi guys, welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome back to another video of ours. This is the Premier Division show where I'm going to look back at the games over the weekend and give my predictions for the games next week. Why not start at Daleyman Park, a game I was at. I vlogged that game. Bohemians and Drogheda United, where it finished Bohemians 4, Drogheda United 2, which was one of those games where, as I said at the end of the vlog, was really hard to digest so soon after the final whistle. But a few days later, I suppose you can digest it more. First of all, a very important win for Bohemians as they're third in the league, 5 points off Shamrock Rovers, a point off Pats, and crucially, maybe 5 points ahead of Dundalk, who are in fifth place. Drogheda, to be honest, Drogheda didn't lose any ground here because Sligo and Cork City lost at the weekend. So they're on 29 points, a point off Sligo and six ahead of Cork City. So, they'd be happy with that. They'd be probably disappointed with a lot of aspects of the game in terms of getting the result and that. But yeah, I mean, it started early. All the drama started early with Kasper. I can never get this right, guys. Kasper Radikowski. Not bad, I suppose. Giving them the lead after 2 minutes. And, you know, ball started out like a house on fire, and Drogheda looked like they hadn't woken up yet, to be honest with you. Because even before that goal, they had a chance, Bowles, whereby they had a shot and then another shot from James Clark, which was cleared pretty much off the line from Connor Keeley. It certainly would have went in had Keeley not been in that position. And from a corner kick, I'm still not sure. I've watched this loads of times. If anyone's watched the highlights or vlog or both or anything, we'll leave down your opinions. What do you think happens here? To be honest with you, whether you're a Bowes or Drogheda fan or just a League of Ireland fan in general, I'm not really sure what happens. It's a corner by Flores, and yeah, I don't know. Are they trying to mark zonally? Are they trying to man mark? There's no real blockage, and Casper gets around the back comfortably. To say drifts around the back would be an understatement, And I was going to say all he has to do is side foot into the net, and but it kind of was easy, to be honest with you, because he'd all the time in the world. The ball just sits in that position nicely, and all he has to do really is keep his composure. Once he does that, he side foots it into the net, and there isn't a Drogheda player within 2 yards of him. Everyone's stuck in the front post area, and it's a strange one. I've watched it a good few times again, and I don't know what goes wrong with Drogheda there. Bowls don't do anything unusual, really. There is a mad blocking in the area. I'm not really sure it's supposed to be Mark and Casper, because when you see, I've watched it and looked at Casper's position as well. Like literally, that's all I've seen. And even before the corner's taken, there doesn't seem to be anyone marking him. So I don't know if it's a zonal plan by Drogheda or what's going on. But if that's the case, why is there no one at the back post? I really don't know. Some kind of communication breakdown. Anyway, that's all I know. And I was getting an easy lead, realistically, and go 1-0 up. For the first 10 minutes or so, I think Bows were probably the better team, but then they kind of relaxed into it a bit, probably too much. Drogheda came back into the game and created a number of chances before they even equalised in 36 minutes. Kyle Robinson had a chance where he hit the post with his left foot. He had another chance that just went wide. There were numerous other opportunities for Drogheda, and they were opening up actually Bows quite easily. And I remember thinking at the time, from their point of view, they need to score soon, because when you're well on top of the game, creating opportunities, you need to take that chance. There's other chances whereby a ball was played into the box, and I think Dale Rooney came across actually, and it could have been a tap in had he got there in time. But they got the deserved equaliser in 36 minutes. It was a free header from Evan Weir. It was a very good header, to be fair, but you could see it drifting over actually before he even hit his head. And my first thought was, this is a goal. Bad defending from Bohemians, though, again. And they defended very poorly, actually, at top balls in particular in this game. I know they conceded two and Drogheda score, or conceded two and Drogheda conceded four. But, for a team near the top of the league, let's say, I thought they defended very poorly. But then a couple of minutes later, Evan Weir gets himself sent off. In fact, 3 minutes later, after equalising, just a rush of blood to the head, in my opinion. I don't really know why, though, because if you make that type of challenge and you're 4-1 down in the last minute, to a degree, you kind of go frustration. I don't know why he's making that challenge, and Dylan Connolly, I don't understand. I don't know. Particularly after just equalising, and you might say fired up after equalising, but even so, You know what I mean? Drogheda at that point were in the ascendancy, and to be honest, I was thinking to myself, and I still think this actually, that they don't lose the game 11v11 in this particular match, genuinely. But it's a poor challenge, and I've seen one or two people saying it's not sending off because 2 feet aren't up. That's ridiculous. It doesn't matter if it's 2 feet or 1 feet, 1 foot. Um, it's a dangerous tackle. It's an ankle breaker potentially. Connolly did go off injured at half time, by the way, from it. Not serious, but he did, and he could have done serious damage there. It's out of control. It's a dangerous challenge, and it is high. His studs are shown in his boot, and sliding in like that, you're asking for trouble anyway. I don't know what you're trying to do really there. In all honesty, it's I don't think there's a debate. There's no debate here. I find it odd anyone who thinks it's not a red card. Sorry, but yeah, and yeah, ultimately that actually later on in the end cost Drogheda the game, and it felt it might. And then we had a flurry of goals that were disallowed, and when I was watching the game, I couldn't really see properly. You can't see properly, but having watched the replays properly numerous times as well, I think the first goal that was disallowed for a push from Afalabi is the correct decision. Actually, it is the correct decision. I think it was actually Kukilovic, the new right back, who actually would have been his first goal for the club. Now he'd be annoyed because he does nothing wrong, but Afalabi does shove Evan Weir over there. It's or whoever, it wasn't Evan Weir because Evan Weir was put off the pitch. I don't know who it was actually. Um, but anyway, the fact is he pushes over the defender, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that was the right decision. I think that was the right decision. The second one, however, was the wrong decision for me. Twardick gets in. I had no idea at the time what it was given for. Um, I knew it was offside, but I couldn't understand the reasoning behind it. The offside. I was saying Twardick couldn't have been offside. It was strange. Twardick actually does well and scores a good goal. Um, but the linesman, I know, in fairness to the linesman, I know why he gave it. And I think he might have been fecked up a little bit, for want of a better word, from his angle, to be honest with you, because, from the angle I was at and the angle you can see on the TV highlights, um, you can see why he's given it. He thinks Dylan Connolly is offside, in which he is, but more crucially, he thinks Dylan Connolly is blocking the goalkeeper's line of sight, in which he doesn't, in my opinion. It's actually quite close, but he doesn't. But from the linesman's position, it might look like that. So I can see why he gave it. Wrong decision, but I can see why he gave it. To be honest, you can see his reasoning at least there, but it didn't stop Bowles because they kept creating chances, and Afalabi does score on 45 to give them a 2-1 lead. Drogheda were all over the place at this point while they were down to 10 men. They brought Connor Kane onto the pitch to play left back, for example, and just changed up a little bit. Heaney came off and Markey went a little bit deeper with Deegan in the middle. But yeah, the shot was saved by Wogan. It was a shot from outside the box. I can't remember who it was. Was it James McManus? I think it might have been McManus who took the shot. To be honest, Wogan can do better. He's only 17, he's inexperienced, but you have to call it how you see it. I think he can do better. He palms it directly out to Afalabi, who finishes and makes it 2-1, and he's a man in form, of course. And that was 2-1 at half time, and you felt Bowes were going to go on and win this easily. Inside in the second half, though, and you know what I mean, Drogheda kind of kept Bowes at bay. The important thing from their point of view is not let Bowes score a third fairly early, and they didn't. Then they started to create chances, and Bowes would have been disappointed with that, the fact that they had the extra man, but it was Drogheda who were creating the opportunities. Robinson done well, and another chance that just went wide as well, and there were other opportunities as well just before Egan scores in 75 to make it 2-2, and it was a deserved equaliser too. Nice one too, Markey, and I can't remember who the other player was actually, but it was a nice one too. Mark gets into the box, gets his head up, and finds Egan, who pretty much is unmarked along with Keeley behind him. Bowles will be disappointed with that to make it 2-2. But crucially and more frustratingly, from Drogheda's point of view, they conceded a minute later. And for me, that was it. Penalty, ball played over the top. Good ball, actually. And the ball's right back, and Grant takes a touch. Wogan comes flying out and concedes a penalty. Correct decision again. So with the big decisions, actually, 3 of the 4 were correct, to be fair. And I can see why the one, what the linesman was thinking for the other one, to be fair, in which he got wrong. But I think, yeah, the officials were dealt a bit of a hard one overall in this match, if I'm honest with you. But Afalabi was never going to miss. I think it's 9 goals in 7 games. That's 7 consecutive games with a goal. He beats Glenn Crow's record. Who was he, eh? He beats his record, and he's a man on fire. And he was never going to miss that penalty, honestly, when you have a striker in form like that. And tired legs for Drogheda came into play. John O'Sullivan gets into a good area, plays it across. Drogheda struggled to clear it, and Clark. Nice finish on 85 minutes. He composed himself. Side foot though from about 30 yards. Unfortunately, I think Wogan will be disappointed he doesn't save this one either, to be honest with you. He hits it well, strikes it well, Clark, but there's not enough power for me. Wogan does get a hand to it, and he's not strong enough, unfortunately. So I don't think Wogan had a good game for Drogheda, unfortunately, in goal. He's only 17, but you have to call it as you see it as well. And ultimately, Bowles get the 3 points. Yeah, I mean, that was a mad one, guys. Let me think what you thought of that match and any decisions, etc. On the Sligo and Pats, and obviously this wasn't a great result for Bowes. It was a very good result for Drogheda, though, and yeah, comfortable enough win for Pats, it has to be said. I watched this game back, actually. Sligo Nielsen patch leg 2. Sligo have been a bit of a bogey team for Pats this season, actually. Forrester's penalty in 12 minutes was coolly taken after Mark Doyle was taken down by probably a rusty Gary Buckley, to be honest. Definite penalty. And Sam Curtis in 32 from a Mulroney free kick. Sligo don't clear it, but he adjusts very well to volley it into the net. Curtis is a very good finish, and he scores in his 50th appearance for Pats, the 17-year-old right back. 2-0 at half time, but Pats had a lot of chances in this game overall. Mulroney misses a sitter in the first half. Carty misses a sitter in the second half. McClellan works McNicholas in the first half. McClellan plays a lovely ball in the second half, in which Carty really should score. I don't know, he just stands looking at it, move towards the ball, and he scores, like, even if it hits him, probably. Carty another shot outside the box, which just went narrowly wide. That was probably his best effort and his hardest effort. And Mulroney actually hits the bar. Brilliant play on the with his left foot. He kind of cuts in, hits the bar, and it comes out. And that's the one of the ones where Carty, I don't know why he's trying to blast it into the net. All he has to do is compose himself inside foot that one. But Forrester from free kick hits the bar as well with a very good effort. And look, ultimately, Pats were the better side in this game. Sligo did force a good save from Hartman's strike from Linus, and they got a penalty at the end, which I think, by the way, is a little bit harsh, if I'm honest with you. Colley, unfortunately, hits it wide. It was a poor penalty. But Pats probably deserve to win this game by a lot more, if I'm honest with you, when you look at it. And maybe delighted with the 3 points. But just with the penalty, I just thought if it hits Breslin in the hand directly, for me, it's a penalty. But what happens is the shot comes in. It's a powerful shot, and Breslin isn't too far away. Actually hits Breslin on the leg and bounces up and hits his hand very quickly. I don't know. It's a little bit harsh, in my opinion, because of that reason. But anyway, yeah, so Pats went 2-0, and at the time they were a point behind Rovers, now 4 behind Rovers. And there's not much more you can say. They fully deserve to win the match. I know Jamie Lennon's out for a few weeks, so that's a loss. Joe Redmond was back in the team, and massive plus, because I think it allows Sam to play right back as well. So you have a double whammy there. Jay McGrath slotted beside him, left footed centre back, and Joe looked good as well. That's the good thing about it. Out for a long time, it can take time. He looked good, made one super tackle on Levac as well in the first half. So good to see him back. Murphy, Forrester both played well in the middle of the park. McClellan had a good game as well, actually, for Pats. Sligo struggled though. They had one of those games where they seriously struggled. You know what they're like at times. They're up and down. Obviously, Matt has left the club, gone to Shrewsbury. Pedro played up front. Looked decent at times. Could be one to watch. We'll have to see with that one. But ultimately, very good win for Pats. And, they're still in the hunt. Europe has to be the first priority, I think, to be honest with you, with Pats. Then on to, where are we now? On to Sunday, and Dundalk played out a 1-1 draw with Shelburne. It doesn't do anything any good, to be honest, particularly Dundalk, who are 5th now, 3 points behind Derry with a game in hand, and crucially 5 behind Bohemians. They'll be disappointed with that. They obviously brought Daryl Horgan back to the club during the week, and he looked to have a decent enough game, to be fair to Horgan. The best thing he could have done in the game was actually leave that free kick to John Martin, who just fired it into the net. A brilliant free kick from John Martin, who I think is a little underrated, actually. I do think he plays better on the right than up front, usually, though, when he plays. So, but he's always good for a goal or two, John Martin. I think he's a decent player. And he gave them the lead, and they had some chances. Kearns made some good saves, and Kane had a chance when he came on the second half, which he brilliant skill, but he blasted over the bar. And in the end, Wood got an equaliser in 83 minutes for Shelburne, and nice little flick by Farrell. Lovely touch from Wood actually to take him away from the defender, and it's a beautiful composed finish. And I talk about composure a lot, to be honest with you, and you see that finish, and no power or anything, but it's just a lovely composed finish, and a goalkeeper like Shepherd even can't do anything about it. Brilliant finish, 1-1. Great results as such for Shelburne. Like, you know what I mean? They're, I suppose, unlike Dundalk, they're only a point behind Dundalk, but unlike Dundalk, the expectations this season won't be as high, I think. Um, as far as Dundalk are concerned, a lot of their fans would have been expecting them to finish in the European positions this season. They still can do that, but they've a bit to do. They've a bit to do. They've a bit to do, and you know, um, they obviously played that game in Europe on Thursday, and they'd be disappointed with that. Hooben and Stars, and he came on and stuff like that. So they have good players. So I mean, you've Hooben, Horgan, O'Kane, who I think they don't get the best of at times. I think O'Kane's a wonderful player to watch. I think he's a really, really good player. They've some good players on Dock. I just don't like. I don't know the high line they often try to employ with players like Andy Boyle and Ainsley and that at the back, and it just doesn't work. It's a thing. I stopped saying it for a while because you sound like a broken record, but it's a thing O'Donnell does all the time, and for me, it can cash them off. To be honest with you, tactically, I think in that way, if you're going to play a high line, you need defenders. In my opinion, you need defenders with a bit of recovery pace. It's easy for the likes of Boyle, etc., to make mistakes in that role. Let's say, um, and it's probably costing them a little bit. They've conceded 34 goals now as well, and that's the fourth weakest in the league. So only the top three, or sorry, the bottom three have conceded more goals, and that's it than Dundalk this season. And only Sligo and Drogheda have only conceded two or three more. So that's their Achilles heel there as well. And I just think it's the way O'Donnell sets up personally defensively, if I'm honest with you. Shelburne the opposite in a way. They set up different defensively. They obviously, it's their 12th draw of the season. Nobody's drawn as many games as Shelburne. But Wood looks like a good player. I've seen him when his debut came on as a sub, and he looked like he was knackered after about 5 minutes. So obviously he's coming into it. He looks like he's a bit of skill, a bit of panache about him. And it looks like they're going to lose Jack Moylan as well. So it's important that he comes in and does well for them, I think. And look, with Shelburne, I don't know. Technically, they're still in the European race. I just don't think they can win enough games to get there, in my opinion. They've won 9 out of 26, for example. But I think they'd need to go on a run of winning a 3 or 4 in a row to get into the race, really, to really put themselves in there. I just don't see them doing that. Tough team to beat. Don't see themselves doing that. At Tallaght Stadium, a very important win at the weekend. The Shamrock Rovers beat Cork City by 2-1. Graham Burke in 29 minutes, a lovely goal. He hit the post previously before that, but the defender's happy enough to put him onto his left foot from outside the box. But he turns, and it's a wonderful strike with his right foot, actually. No backlift, not that much power generated into it, but he gets it into the corner. Again, it's a composed finish, probably my favourite finish. And you know what Graham Burke can do. He can drift in and out of games. That's why he doesn't play every week, in my opinion. But you know what he can do, and it's a brilliant goal. Coffey equalises from a free kick in 35 minutes. Now, don't get me wrong, he strikes it well, but I think Almanis would be disappointed with that. I think Almanis of a year or two ago even saves that. It's on his side. He strikes it well, as I say, but I'm sure Manus would be disappointed he didn't save that. But got Cork back into the game, and you're thinking, well, they did get a point here earlier on in the season and Tallaght in a ridiculous 4-4 draw, but I think it was probably a must-win for Rovers' confidence after the 2 European games, and obviously to get that gap again over Pats. They're still the favourites for me, big time to win the league, and Liam Burt could be a very important player in the run-in. He's a player, an exciting player I really like seeing play. He's had the struggles with injuries. If he can be fit in the running, is exactly what they need, because they've been a bit stale at times, haven't they, Rovers? And Burt just, look, the goal he scores, quality goal. He picks up the ball and does a bit of a mazy dribble, and it's a lovely composed finish, isn't it? I think that's word of the week: composure or composed. And that's what Liam Burt does, really. Like, there's no surprise, really, but he can be creative as well. That's what I like about him. He's a bit of dazzle. I like players with a bit of dazzle. Like, he can turn onto his left foot, turn on his right foot, shoot off both feet. you don't know what he's going to do or where he's going to go, and the Cork defenders really struggle with that. They'll be disappointed he got through the centre, obviously, but he takes it very well, and it gives Shamrock Rovers all 3 points. And as for Cork, they have a lot to do, and the loss of Keating really is a loss in so many ways, and it's understandable, like, to be honest. But it's probably killing Cork a little bit at the moment as well. That Rory is unavailable for them, and it's a tough one for them now. They're still 6 points behind Drogheda, 7 behind Sligo, and it's amazing what a win or two can do, to be honest. But they need to close that gap somehow. They really do. It is difficult for them because they've lost Matt Healy as well, of course, in the last couple of weeks, and he's a good player for them as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. As for Shamrock Rovers, I think now that the league all need to concentrate on, I think they have to be favourites for us. They're always favourites for us, but I still think they could go on a winning streak. If they go on one winning streak of 4 or 5 games, that's it, one. So they could win it by a bit to spare still. But the likes of Pats there and Bowes, and especially Derry, I'll just talk about Derry quickly for a minute because they're not playing as such, but the European run was a fantastic result for them in Finland, so it was. The way they won it as well after being behind, it looked like they were dead and buried, but they're playing in Tolo in Kazakhstan now, and you give them an opportunity. Hopefully they can do well and keep the tie alive for the second leg, which could well, by the way, be in Windsor Park in Belfast. They're looking into that. But funny enough, the further Derry go in Europe, it's possible the less likely they are to actually challenge Rovers. But they're in form. That's the thing, but they're just not playing league matches. We get on to them later on there as well. So that's all the matches, isn't it? Yeah, that's all the matches from last weekend. Again, let me know what you think of the comments. I'll just go through some of the predictions now for Friday. And there's some big games on Friday. Cork City at home to UCD, and look, it's a must win for Cork because I'm talking about having to close the gap. They have to beat UCD at Turner's Cross. And there'll be pressure on them because everyone is expected to beat UCD. This is the problem. Everyone is expected to beat UCD. And UCD, yes, they're marooned, but they will take points and probably beat someone before the season ends as well. So, but Cork City just cannot afford to be that team. They have to go and win this match. Because if they don't, it's very difficult for them not to get out of ninth, in my opinion. So I'm going to go for Cork to win it, though. Tight, 2-1. Dundalk and Sligo Rovers at Oriel Park, and it's a case of which Sligo turn up. They didn't turn up last week, which means they might turn up this week. Very important game for Dundalk, though. Very important game for Dundalk, having been held on to Shelburne. Looking at the league table, they're the team that are under the most pressure at the moment out of the teams challenged for Europe. That can change, but they are at the moment, and I really think, it'll be interesting to see how they start. I mean, I think if they went with Horgan, personally, on the left, a Kane on the right, or either way, and Hooban up front, I think that's pretty decent. So, it'll be interesting to see how they do that. Sligo, I don't know. I don't know. They're just going to have to perform better. I don't think they've defended well this season. I think their midfield has been poor this season as well. Hartman coming in does give them a bit. They're obviously missing Mata, so it'll be interesting to see how this Pedro chap does. I think Dundalk might nick this one 1-0. They might just do enough. Dublin Derby, Talca Park, Shelburne, and Shamrock Rovers. This is usually tight, and there's been a couple of 0-0 draws in that. Shamrock Rovers, for me, still aren't the same team, obviously, without Jack Byrne, and that's been a loss to them. But with Lynn Burke back and looking sharp, that's a big plus for them, I think, because they need a bit of that energy and zip in the team. And they'll certainly need that for Shelburne, because when you play against Shelburne, sometimes you need a little bit of magic. Or set piece, because we can see a lot of goals from set pieces, Shelburne, this year. It's hard to see this game going any different in terms of pattern like it usually does. Shamrock Rovers usually have all the ball, but they have to move it quicker at times. Shelburne are happy to let them have the ball, but will look to hit in the counter, particularly Moylan. I'm sure Wood will play again. They'll probably keep Boyd on the bench, if I'm honest with you. So yeah, I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be very tight. I actually think Shelburne will get a draw of this one. I'm going to go with 0-0. Now, the big one on Friday is obviously St. Patrick's Athletic and Bows, because I think whoever wins this, in my opinion, is guaranteed a place in Europe. Whoever wins this, if someone can win this game, I think Europe, you can nearly say that's it. They're great position. But the media, and rightfully so, because we have to do it, we'll be building this up as whoever can win might be able to challenge Shamrock Rovers. Do you know, that kind of way? Which, yeah, fair enough. I get that. Watched Bowes very closely the last few weeks. Actually, watched them last week against Drogheda, and I really wasn't impressed with the defending at all. I really was not impressed with the way they defended in that game, and they're going to have to tighten up a bit because I think Pats have a bit more about them. They're not going to give away as much, particularly with Joe Redmond back in the team, as say Drogheda would, and obviously Pats are stronger in midfield. But there's some interesting dynamics in midfield, I think, in this game in particular, and that's the two youngsters. You've got Adam Murphy, 18-year-old, James McManus, who I believe is just 17 in midfield. And I've watched both of these players closely, and I'm sure Pats fans have seen Murphy a lot. I'm sure Bowes fans have seen McManus a lot. The difference is they're two different players, though, completely different style of player, both young, talented players. I think McManus is more on the neat and tidy side of things, you know what I mean? 1-2 touch. Keeps things simple, which is fine. As it plays a little bit deeper. Murphy is more of he can get around the pitch, probably better defensively, if I'm honest with you, a bit stronger maybe, better defensively. He's more of a box to box, to be honest with you, Murphy. He can play a bit as well, but he is more of a box to box, I think. But it'd be interesting to see the dynamic about players there. Then you've Chris Forrester, who's just Chris Forrester, no Bowles or Pats on. He's need to elaborate on him. And James Clark, who I think has been the most impressive Bowles player, you could argue, in the last few weeks. Now, Afalabi has scored the goals, but he's been playing in between the lines, Clark, and linking up well with Afalabi, which has helped Afalabi, in my personal opinion, big time. I was actually complaining from, say, a Bowles point of view that Afalabi wasn't getting enough support before he went in this goal streak. And I felt that James Clark wasn't getting enough games, to be honest. And I felt that Clark was the type of player who could work off him and link up with him. And I think that was really, really helped Afalabi. So that's something Pats have to watch out for big time. And Clark gets in between the lines. Jamie Lennon's going to be injured for Pats as well. So he'd be a player that would probably look after Clark in that sense. But Pats might be a little open there because they don't have those type of players in that role. And Clark is a very good ball carrier. So that's something to watch. You know, it'd be interesting to see if Danny Grant starts as well. I'd love to see Danny Grant up against the best right back in the league and Sam Curtis, to be honest. It'd be an interesting battle. But look, it's going to be an intense battle. It's going to be an interesting battle. It's a Dublin derby. There's a lot in it. My sense is, to be honest, the Pats will win this game, though. I think they might, on the day, have a little bit too much. I just have a feeling Afalabi's goal streak might end here as well. 2-1 Pats. 2-1 Pats. And the final game is on Sunday, isn't it? Because, of course, Derry are playing in Europe, and best of luck again to Derry in Europe, and hopefully they can get a result of some kind and give themselves a good opportunity to get through in the second leg. But Derry will be playing Drogheda on Sunday as well. And this is an important game for Derry as well. It's going to be tough because it's in between both European ties in terms of mental preparation. So Drogheda will look at this game and say they'll take bits out of the Bowles game that they were happy with, and a lot of our attack and play they'd have to be very happy with in this game. In that game against Bowles. Very happy with, you know, Foley's a man in form scoring goals. I thought Robinson looked sharp, give him a few weeks and he could put some of them into the net. Derry could be vulnerable in between the cup games, but they'll know, and Rory will know, it's a very important game for them to try and win, because they'll still feel they can win this title. So it'll be interesting to see, in my opinion, to see if they'll rest many players. The problem is they go to Kazakhstan and they have to take a couple of flights and stuff like that. So if they're going to win this Derry, I think they're going to have to grind it out. And you're going to have to grind it out against a team that works probably as hard as anyone in the league. Themselves and Shelburne and Drogheda are probably the two hardest working teams consistently in the league. For that reason, I actually think Drogheda might nick something out of this game. I think it might be Derry City 1, Drogheda 1. So that's all the predictions, guys. That's all the games gone through. Let me know even what you think in the comments. Give us a few predictions for next week. Your thoughts on your own team or any other team or players in the league. Anything at all, just fling in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit your bell notification button so you keep up to date with our videos. And see you later. Good luck.